Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green. You're tuning into AMTV Alternative Media Television. It is of course Thursday, July 24th, 2014, and breaking news, another plane lost. Airline likely crashed in Mali. I woke up earlier this morning, set out a couple tweets, could hardly believe my eyes. I said, with so many planes hijacked and shot down lately, I wonder if Americans will keep flying. Hashtag AH5017, hashtag AH5017, hashtag what we're discussing now, AH5017. Another tweet, it turns out flying isn't any safer than it was before 9/11. Hashtag bullshit security. Just like MH370 airliner, AH5017 goes missing from radar. Hashtag likely hijacked. How many airliners can disappear from radar before the people realize the planes are being hijacked? Hashtag terrorism. Hashtag AH5017. Breaking. Another airliner, Air Algeria. Flight AH5017 goes missing from radar. Fox News. This is kind of like growing to a baker's dozen. I mean, now we've got three. I mean, this is amazing. 3 planes. MH370, which still has not been located, not a single shred of evidence found to indicate that it crashed in the Indian Ocean. MH17, of course, being investigated now by the Netherlands. At least we're trying to get an independent investigation. I have a video that came out before this providing evidence that air traffic controllers actually directed flight MH17 to change its route moments before impact of an alleged missile on the ground. And we still do not know who shot that missile. And now we have AH5017, and there's some very interesting facts about this. CNN reports Air Algeria says missing plane likely crashed in Mali, meaning they don't know what happened yet. So far, it's just gone missing on radar, just like flight MH370, which again, still has not been located, has not been found. When are people going to wake up that these events are likely terrorism? And I'm not saying that Air Algeria is necessarily terrorism per se. We don't know yet. It could have just crashed. We're waiting for more evidence. But when are people going to wake up? I mean, is it honestly going to take a baker's dozen of missing planes for people to go, maybe this is potentially terrorism. Maybe we aren't any safer than pre-9/11. You know, since then, of course, we've had the Patriot Act, which was engineered by the elite and is basically used along with other legislation like the NDAA to steal our freedom and to destroy and shred the U.S. Constitution. From London, an Air Algeria flight with at least 116 people on board, which dropped off the radar in the early hours of Thursday, has apparently crashed in Mali, the flight operator said. You can see a map here, Algeria, see this part of the world, Africa, where we're all located. Air Algeria said via Twitter, and supposedly this was later deleted, that the plane had apparently crashed in the Tel Emsi area, about 70 kilometers from the southeastern city of Gao. Flight 5017 lost radar, just like flight MH370, contact 50 minutes after takeoff from the area early Thursday. It was supposed to arrive at Algiers airport about 4 hours later. The airline also tweeted that among those on board were 50 people from France, 24 from Burkina Faso early Thursday. It was supposed to arrive at Algiers airport. 8 Lebanese, 6 Algerians, 5 Canadians, 4 Germans, 2 from Luxembourg, 1 from Mali, 1 from Cameroonian, 1 Belgian, 1 Ukrainian, 1 Romanian, and 1 Swiss. They also said in a post on its Facebook page, and this is extremely interesting, that Mariela Castro, the daughter of Cuban President Raul Castro, was among those on board. The daughter of the Cuban president was killed in this crash. Now tell me if that doesn't need more investigation. She was among those on board. The Cuban Foreign Ministry said they are looking into the reports, but was not aware she was on that plane. That's interesting too. They weren't aware of it. So you're telling me the Cuban president doesn't know where his own daughter, what plane she's flying, what her travel itinerary is. It makes no sense at all. So we have a very high-profile daughter of a very high-profile figure downed in the aircraft. That is very, very suspicious and needs to be investigated further. So far, they have not confirmed. CNN has not confirmed she was on the flight. Well, then I don't understand why you're reporting it. An earlier Facebook post said that the plane might be in the area of Kidal in northern Mali, where French troops are stationed, backed up by the Air Force. The town of Kidal was occupied some months ago by rebels. Mali lies between Burkina Faso and Algeria. So basically what they're telling you here, it appears at least, based on this information, that this flight was also flying over rebel territory. What is it with civilian airliners and civilian airlines in general flying over known conflict zones, flying over known war zones? Doesn't make a lot of sense, doesn't it? Again, we're approaching a baker's dozen now, folks. A baker's dozen with 3 flights. 3 mysterious flights. MH370 still not found. Not a single shred of hard, tangible evidence to prove it was even crashed in the first place. Again, hasn't been found. They've spent millions and millions of dollars looking for a plane that really doesn't exist. It's probably docked in a hangar somewhere, as we mentioned as an earlier theory. Some of the first reports, a likely hijacking the cockpit, we now know, after an Australian independent investigation, and also confirmed by Inmarsat, that does the satellite imagery, that flight MH370 had malpractice, and that the cockpit had malicious and some kind of malicious act right after takeoff that diverted the flight and also lost it mysteriously from radar. And all of that, of course, spells out terrorism. But you won't get any of that on CNN. They just think it's a crashed plane. Yeah, don't worry, America. Keep flying. We're approaching a baker's dozen here now. Flight MH370, flight MH17. The bodies are arriving in Netherlands right now. And now the latest Algiers flight here. The third mystery. The trifecta of hijacked and or downed planes by missiles flying over known war zones. Again, this is just kind of really, almost just kind of an agenda to spark international fear, I think. It's almost like the powers that be have gotten together, and they're just kind of creating a fear cartel right now. Just proving once again that you're less safe than you were before 9/11, before all of the authoritarian Orwellian surveillance, the hands down your pants at the airport, taking your shoes off, etc., molesting your grandma and your kid, etc. You're less safe now. More and more planes going down and missing, and still no evidence to back up what's happened. Also today, Ukrainian Prime Minister, cabinet resigns. That's interesting. Why would the Ukrainian Prime Minister of the new government that toppled the old rightful Yanukovych government resign? It almost sounds like maybe they're coming to find that the hardcore evidence may in fact prove that it was the new Ukrainian government and Ukrainian soldiers that potentially shot down MH17. Again, we don't know that for sure. We need an independent investigation first. But of course, the mainstream media and the Western agenda is going to jump on the bandwagon within hours without doing any kind of formal independent investigation, and they're going to blame it on Putin in order to demonize him, to scapegoat, to obviously start a war. Again, you need a scapegoat for a war, my friends. Ukrainian Prime Minister Yatsenyuk and his cabinet resigned Thursday. This is huge. This to me is very interesting. He told the parliament, "I announced registration after the collapse of the coalition and the blocking of government initiatives," he said. "The government has been at odds with pro-Russian separatists in eastern Ukraine." So the new government, and I'm just learning this now live with you, I guess has collapsed. They've collapsed since the takeover. Which to me is not only very suspicious, but also kind of leads me to thinking that maybe there's some big you-know-what about to go down, pointing the finger at the new Ukrainian government officials and their military being the culprits behind the shooting down of MH17. Wouldn't that be interesting? In fact, wouldn't it be interesting if the Obama administration, the U.S. government, and the mainstream media got it entirely wrong, and AMTV and the few lone voices out there like us got it 100% right? Again, approaching a baker's dozen, folks. The trifecta here, plane number 3. Again, but let's not ask any critical question. I mean, hey, if you ask a critical question, you must be a conspiracy theorist. I got a video here approaching 100,000 views now. Of course, I did tons of coverage in flight MH370 with hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. In fact, we might be up to millions now. Just asking critical questions. But yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist because I think for a living. Isn't that interesting? I've got a thinking brain in this noggin here. Not a genius. Just ask basic, logical questions. You know, like, hey, what happened to MH17? Has there been an independent investigation? No. Why was it flying over a known war zone? Nobody knows that. Why is the mainstream media already concluding that Putin's responsible? I mean, just basic questions, obviously. But of course, we live in a propaganda machine here in America, just like there's a propaganda machine in Russia, just like there's a propaganda machine in China, just like there's a propaganda machine in Malaysia, just like there's a propaganda machine everywhere. But again, just asking critical questions takes the alternative media, takes AMTV to ask these questions. But again, this is huge news, folks. Ukrainian Prime Minister Yatsenyuk and his cabinet resigned Thursday, he told Parliament. I have a sneaking suspicion some shit is about to go down. Again, if it smells like a turd, if it tastes like a turd, it's typically a turd. And I call bullshit, just like we called bullshit from the very beginning as we approach the Baker dozen of missing planes. French official missing Air Algeria flight carrying 116 crashed in Mali. And what a tragedy. What a tragedy. Again, it makes me sick to my stomach learning about all these civilians' deaths. Not just on these airlines, but with the Israeli invasion of Gaza. The death toll now approaching the 700s with 4,000 wounded. Again, just murder and war. And it just makes me sick. And then, I tweeted out yesterday, too, people will justify war, murder, and invasions. They'll use religion to justify it, which to me makes you a hypocrite, my friend. Whatever happened to love your neighbor, love thy neighbor, whatever happened to those values? Of course, according to the Telegraph, the search for AH5017 still continues. Yeah, it's been months, 4 or 5 months, not a single shred of friggin' evidence. Just millions, tens of millions of dollars spent looking for a plane that I guarantee our intelligence agencies and intelligence agencies around the world know was hijacked. Just don't want you to know, though. They don't want to create a panic. They're just going to let plane after plane disappear, whether or not this is MH370 or it's MH17 being shot down or it's the latest Algier flight going down. They're just going to keep letting it happen. Again, they're not looking out for your best interest, folks. They don't want to create a panic. I mean, hey, after all, they got a Ponzi scheme up the stock market to new record highs. I heard the S&P 500 again broke another record. I mean, they can't turn this bullshit propaganda off. They got to keep you flying. They got to keep you buying. They got to keep you borrowing. They got to keep rates at zero. They got to keep the stimulus going. They got to keep the debt. Obama's got to continue the invasion at our borders so that he'll have more Democratic, liberal-oriented voters for his third re-election. Yeah, that's not anti-constitutional there. Again, we need to ask basic questions, folks. We need to ask critical questions. We need to think. We need to call bullshit when we see it. Again, how many planes have to go missing and shot down before the dumbass people, whether or not it's here in America, the bumbling fools, or around the world, wake up and realize none of this is conspiracy theory. It's just the hardcore friggin' truth. I'm Christopher Green. Get it out everywhere. Make it viral. Hard-hitting it in your face. And click the link below to support our sponsor.